We live in a world that's always telling us we can be anything, do anything. But what if our greatest strength actually comes from knowing our limits? That's the really provocative idea at the heart of Alexander Pope's An Essay on Criticism, and we're going to deconstruct it together.
So our guide for this is the man himself, Alexander Pope. And let me tell you, he was an absolute giant of 18th century poetry. His wit was just legendary. In fact, his writing is so sharp that he's still one of the most quoted authors in the English language. Second only to Shakespeare. Yeah, no big deal.
But here's what makes him so unbelievably compelling. While his literary stature was massive, his physical stature was not. An illness he had as a kid stopped his growth, and he dealt with health issues his whole life. And it's this unique perspective, this brilliant, massive mind inside a frail body that really shaped his views on human limitations. And that's a theme we're going to see all through his work.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll get to know Alexander Pope a little better. Then, we'll dive into the first stanza, which is all about nature's power. After that, we'll tackle the second stanza on human wit. And finally, we'll look at the incredible poetic craft that makes it all work so beautifully.
So, who was Alexander Pope? I mean, his life is just this amazing story of a mind completely triumphing over physical hardship. So check out this timeline. Pope was born in London in 1688, but his life takes this dramatic turn when he's just 12 years old. An illness stunts his growth, and that's something he'll deal with forever. But despite that, by 1709, his career is already taking off with his pastorals. He just keeps creating major works like the Universal Prayer in 1738, right up until he dies in 1744. His whole life is just proof of the power of the mind.
Okay, now let's get into the poem itself. The very first stanza just sets the stage with this huge, powerful argument about nature, and how it's the one that draws the lines in the sand for us.
Nature to all things fixed the limits fit, and wisely curbed proud man's pretending wit. As on the land while here the ocean gains, in other parts it leaves wide sandy plains. Thus in the soul while memory prevails, the solid power of understanding fails. Where beams of warm imagination play, the memory's soft figures melt away. Wow, you can just feel the weight of those lines, can't you? In just 8 lines, Pope lays out his whole case. We live in a world where everything, especially our own intelligence, is governed by these unchangeable natural laws.
All right, before we unpack all of that, let's just clarify a few of these old school words so we're all on the same page. Curbed just means restrained or held back. Wit, in this case, means our intelligence or our brain power. And when something prevails, it basically takes over. Got it? Cool.
So what's he really saying? Pope's telling us that nature is the ultimate boss. It's the one that puts our human arrogance, our pretending wit, in check. And then he uses this gorgeous analogy. Think of your mind like a coastline. Just like the ocean is constantly changing the shape of the land, our own minds are in this constant battle. When a powerful memory, like a huge wave, crashes in, our rational thinking can just get washed away. And when our imagination is shining bright and warm, some of our softer, older memories just melt.
But how does Pope make this feel so real? I mean, it's not just what he says, it's how he says it. He's got a whole toolkit of literary devices he's using here. We've got personification, metaphor, alliteration, assonance, the whole shebang. Let's look at a really great example. This is just a brilliant use of personification. Notice how nature isn't just a thing, it's an actor. It wisely curbs our pride, almost like a parent reining in a cocky teenager. And the ocean doesn't just rise, it gains on the land, like an army advancing. By giving them these human-like actions, Pope makes this big, abstract idea feel super tangible and powerful. Okay, now let's move on to stanza 2. Pope shifts his focus here. He zooms in from the grand power of nature to the specific limits and dangers of our own human intelligence, our wit. One science only will one genius fit. So vast is art, so narrow human wit. You can hear that, right? The argument gets way more direct here, more pointed. Pope is basically sounding an alarm, warning us against trying to know everything. He's saying real mastery comes from focus.
And again, a few words help unlock this. Peculiar here just means a specific or particular thing. Vain is great because it means both conceited and useless. And to stoop to something means to stick with it, to focus on it.
So Pope's argument is this. Every genius is really only built for one thing, one science. Why?
Because the world of knowledge, what he calls art, is endless, but our individual brains are, well, narrow. He warns that our vain ambition, our desire to know it all, actually makes us lose the stuff we've already learned. The real path to wisdom, he says, is to stoop to what we understand, to master our own little corner of the universe.
And you guessed it, Pope uses another brilliant set of literary tricks to make his point. Two of the big ones here are a really powerful simile and a super sharp contrast.
And here's that simile. He compares us to kings. It's such a perfect image, right? You can picture this ambitious ruler who's never happy with their kingdom. They keep trying to conquer more and more, but they spread their armies too thin and end up losing the lands they already had. Pope is saying our minds work the exact same way.
And this line right here, oh man, it is a masterclass in contrast. Putting vast and narrow right next to each other creates this immediate gut punch of a feeling. It makes you feel the huge gap between everything there is to know and our tiny little capacity to know it. It's an entire argument in one single elegant line.
Okay, so let's zoom out one last time and look at the actual structure that's holding all these brilliant ideas together. Because Pope wasn't just a great thinker, he was a master craftsman, and his tool of choice was the heroic couplet.
Just look at this pattern. Fit rhymes with wit, gains with plains, prevails with fails. See that? AA, BB, CC. He writes in these pairs of rhyming lines. They're called couplets, and each little pair often contains one complete, perfect thought, almost like a tiny little tweet of wisdom.
This specific form is called the heroic couplet. It's two rhyming lines written in a very particular rhythm called iambic pentameter. You know, that classic heartbeat sound, the deem, da-doom, da-doom. It's this combo of tight rhyme and steady rhythm that gives the poem its incredible balance and authority. This was Pope's signature move, and honestly, nobody did it better.
So, when you put it all together, what's the big takeaway? Pope's message is really a powerful call for something we don't talk about much: intellectual humility. He's saying that true genius isn't about conquering the entire world of knowledge. It's about cultivating your own garden, about knowing your boundaries, and becoming a true master of your own small patch of earth.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question for our own time. I mean, Pope wrote this over 300 years ago, but in our world, with the entire internet in our pockets and this constant pressure to know more, do more, learn faster, is his warning against vain ambition maybe more important and more relevant than it has ever been? It's definitely something to think about.